Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my review of the Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. There are many ways to support the show. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store and find all kinds of shirts and other items with designs made by friends of the show. Support is never expected but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. And please follow friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co host of the show on Saturdays when she's able to make it. And Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows online for free 24/7. And so yeah, a couple of things to keep in mind here with this with these shows that I'm doing here in this series. Um, there will be uh, things that Fort talks about and ideas and things he shares that you and or I may not agree with, and those are his words, even though I'm reading them, and so just be aware of that. Also, there may be some things that he talks about that were mysterious or unusual to him at the time he wrote the book, which is in the early 1900s, that are not mysterious anymore. So if anything seems like it's not as big of a deal today, that may be why. Also, as usual, I will always mispronounce things on accident, of course, but it will happen fairly often, and I apologize for that. Because But that's how it is because words are hard and names can be hard too. And not all the words and names in this book are in English. So that makes things even more difficult. But so I think that takes care of everything. So I can get back to this book here. And we were in the middle. He wasn't. Fort was in the middle of talking about uh, strange falls of ice. Um, and just strange in their size and or just other details as well. So we'll get back to that now, and I will keep reading. So I'm going to do a little bit of review here. It mentions a magazine, British Association, 1851-32, that a mass of ice about a cubic yard in size had fallen at Kandish, India, 1828. Against these data, though, so far as I know, so many of them have never been assembled together before. There is a silence upon the part of scientific men that is unusual. Our Super Sargasso Sea may not be an unavoidable conclusion, but arrival upon this earth of ice from external regions does seem to be, except that there must be it ever so faint, a merger It is in the notion that these masses of ice are only congealed hailstones. We have data against this notion, as applied to all our instances, but the explanation has been offered, and it seems to me may apply in some instances. In the Bulletin for Society of Astrology of France, 20 dash, oops, I skipped the page, 20 245, it is said of blocks of ice the size of decanters that had fallen at Tunis, that they were only masses of congealed hailstones. Spot. There we go. London Times, August 4th, 1857. That a block of ice, described as, in quotation marks, pure ice, weighing 25 pounds, had been found in the meadow of Mr. Warner of Cricklewood. There had been a storm the day before. As in some of our other instances, no one had seen this object fall from the sky. It was found after the storm. That's all that can be said about it. Letter from Captain Blackiston, communicated by General Sabine to the Royal Society, London Royal Society Proceedings, 10-468, that January 14th, 1860, in a thunderstorm, pieces of ice had fallen upon Captain Blackiston's vessel, that it was not hail, in quotation marks here, it was not hail, but irregular shaped pieces of solid ice of different dimensions, up to the size of half a brick. The end of quotation. Got a notification on my PC, but it went away, so I'm going to leave it the way it is. According to the advertiser Scotsman, quoted by the Edinburgh New Philosophical Magazine, 47-371, an irregular shaped mass of ice fell at Ord, Scotland, August 1849, after an in quotation marks, an extraordinary peal of thunder, close quotation marks. It is said that this was homogeneous ice, except homogeneous ice, except in a small part, which looked like congealed hailstones. The mass was about 20 feet in circumference. The story, as told in the London Times, August 14th, 1849, is that upon the evening of the 13th of August, 1849, after a loud peal of thunder, a mass of ice said to have been 20 feet in circumference had fallen upon the estate of Mr. Moffat of Belvolich, not sure, Rossshire. It is said that this object fell alone or without hailstones. Altogether, though it is not so strong for the Super Sargasso Sea, I think this is one of our best expressions upon external origins, that large blocks of ice could form in the moisture of this Earth's atmosphere is about as likely as that blocks of stone could form in a dust whirl. Of course, if ice or water comes to this Earth from external sources, we think of at least minute organisms in it, and on with our data to frogs, fishes, onto anything that's thinkable coming from external sources. It's of great importance to us to accept that large lumps of ice have fallen from the sky. But what we desire most, perhaps because of our interest in its archaeologic and paleonto- paleontologic, that was difficult, treasures, is now to be through with tentativeness and probation, and to take the Super Sargasso Sea into full acceptance in our more advanced fold of the chosen of this 20th, 20th century. In the report of the British Association 1855-37, it is said that at Porhundur, India, December 11th, 1854, flat pieces of ice, many of them weighing several pounds each, I suppose, had fallen from the sky. They are described as, in quotation marks, large ice flakes, end quotation marks. Vast fields of ice in the super-Arctic regions, or strata of the Super Sargasso Sea. When lost my spot. Okay. When they break up, their fragments are flake-like. In our acceptance, there are aerial ice fields that are uh, that are remote from this Earth, that break up fragments, grinding against one another, rolling in vapor and water of different constituency in different regions, forming slowly as stratified hailstones. But that there are ice fields near this Earth that break up into just such flat pieces of ice as cover any pond or river when ice of a pond or river is broken, and are sometimes soon precipitated to the earth in this familiar flat formation. So, just to go over a little bit of that there, um, the Super Sargasso Sea is an idea of forts of these other layers of liquid and or solid materials that he thought might surround the planet, and then due to weather and or outside forces that might cause the fall of objects, of all kinds of objects that he has covered in this book so far. And again, I don't, as far as I know, that's not the case, but I could be wrong. But this is just an idea he had. And either way, there are still all these massive blocks or pieces of ice that he has chronicled and found reports of and included in this book. So even without that explanation, even if that's not accurate, it's still amazing because it still leaves the mystery of where do these massive pieces of ice come from. So, getting back to the material here, it says Simmons Meteorological Magazine, 43-154. A correspondent writes that at Bremer, I'm not sure what that is, if I'm saying it right, July 2nd, 1908, when the sky was clear overhead and the sun shining, flat pieces of ice fell from somewhere. The sun was shining, but something was going on somewhere. Thunder was heard. Until I saw the reproduction of a photograph in the Scientific American, February 21st, 1914, I had supposed that these ice fields must be, say, at least 10 or 20 miles away from this earth, and invisible to terrestrial observers, except as the blurs that have so often been reported uh, by astronomers and meteorologists. The photograph, published by the Scientific American, is of an aggregation supposed to be clouds, presumably not very high, so clearly detailed are they. The writer says that they looked to him like, in quotation marks, a field of broken ice, end quotation marks. Beneath is a picture, and this is of course audio, so you're not going to be able to see it. A picture of a conventional field of ice, floating ordinarily in water. The resemblance between the two pictures is striking. Nevertheless, it seems to me incredible that the first of the photographs could be of an aerial ice field, or that gravitation could cease to act at only a mile or so from this Earth's surface, unless the exceptional, the flux and vagary of all things, or that normally this Earth's gravitation extends, say, 10 or 15 miles outward, but that gravitation must be rhythmic. That's fascinating. Just the idea of that. And there are places in the world where there are anomalies of gravity and electromagnetism and all these different things. So, as far as I know, anyway, so that is amazing that that's an idea that Fort had at this time that he had it. So, going back to the book here, of course, in the pseudo formulas of astronomers, again, Fort has a lot of opinions about different groups of scientists. Gravitation as a fixed quantity is essential, except that gravitation is a variable force, and astronomers deflate with a perceptible hissing sound into the punctured condition of economists, biologists, meteorologists, and all the others of the humbler divinities, who can admittedly offer only insecure approximations. We refer all who would not like to hear the hiss of escaping arrogance to Herbert Spencer's chapters upon the rhythm of all phenomena. If everything else, light from the stars, heat from the sun, the winds and the tides, forms and colors and sizes of animals, demands and supplies and prices, political opinions, and chemic reactions and religious doctrines, and magnetic intensities, and the ticking of a clock, or ticking of clocks, and arrival and departure of the seasons. If everything else is variable, we accept that the notion of gravitation as fixed and formulable is only another attempted positivism, doomed, like all other illusions of realness and quasi-existence. So it is intermediatism to accept that, though gravitation may approximate higher to invariability than do the winds, for instance, it must be somewhere between the absolutes of stability and instability. Here we are not much impressed with the opposition of physicists and astronomers, fearing, a little mournfully, that their language is of expiring civilizations. Let me check. Okay, I think I have one more paragraph here. So then, the fields of ice in the sky, and that, though usually so far away as to be mere blurs, at times they come close enough to be seen in detail. For a description of what I call a quotation marks blur, see Popular Science News, February 1884. Sky, in general, unusually clear, but near the sun, in quotation marks, a white, slightly curdled haze, which was dazzlingly bright, in quotation marks. And let's check. Okay. We accept that sometimes fields of ice pass between the sun and the earth, that many strata of ice, or very thick fields of ice, or superimposed fields, would obscure the sun, that there have been occasions when the sun was eclipsed by fields of ice. And that's where we'll stop for this episode, because we're going to be getting into another paragraph, another page. So it seems like a good place to stop. Again, even if with modern technology there's not enough evidence of these kinds of floating or moving, or these just fields of ice that Fort talks about possibly existing out in space. Even if that's not accurate, that's fine. To me, the question is still, how are all these either massive pieces of ice, again, multiple pounds per piece, or these masses of medium-sized pieces of ice that fall in together, where are they coming from? And again, I'm no weather expert, so there could be an explanation now at this point that is available. I'm just not aware of it. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.